Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're taking a deep dive into crypto, AI, and the future of trust.
Sounds fascinating.
It is, especially with the insights we're pulling from Aviel Garg's conversation on the Ben Shapiro Sunday Special.
Right, Garg, the venture capitalist deep in the crypto world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He brings up some really interesting points about these emerging technologies.
Yeah, his take on the whole origin of cryptocurrency was pretty insightful.
You're talking about how he links it back to the 2008 financial crisis.
Yeah, that distrust in the traditional financial system. It's like Bitcoin wasn't just about a new kind of currency, it was about creating something
More secure.
secure and more in control of the individual, self-sovereignty, kind of a direct contrast to how traditional institutions, even big tech, operates.
It's interesting how he highlights that trade-off.
Yeah.
Like, the old systems are all about efficiency and speed
But that often comes at the expense of transparency.
and individual control.
Exactly. Early crypto, on the other hand, it was all about putting the power back in the hands of the individual.
And it's amazing how crypto has evolved beyond just being a digital currency to become a whole new computational infrastructure.
You're thinking about smart contracts,
Smart contracts, stablecoins, new ways of lending and exchanging value.
and it's impacting the real world in a big way. Remember that story Garg told about flying cash to London?
Faster than a wire transfer.
Crazy, right? It really shows how this technology is shaking things up. And that actually leads to another interesting point he made.
The difference in how crypto is being embraced globally.
Exactly. Places like the UK, Germany, Singapore, Dubai, they're all in, creating these crypto-friendly environments.
While the US seems to be dragging its feet.
It is a bit ironic. The US, the birthplace of the internet.
You'd think they'd be leading the charge.
Maybe they're taking their tech dominance for granted. Who knows? But this hesitancy in the US ties into this whole debate around regulation, right?
The crypto world isn't asking for no regulation,
Right. They just want clarity, clear legislation instead of this regulation by enforcement thing.
which they argue just stifles innovation and helps the bad actors.
Exactly. And then you have cases like FTX, which Garg argues
Was a direct result of that lack of regulatory clarity.
Exactly. It's a cautionary tale, right? It shows the need for balance. You can't overregulate and kill innovation, but you can't have the Wild West either.
And it's interesting how companies are now taking the SEC to court.
Challenging their authority, pointing out inconsistencies.
It definitely highlights the growing tension between innovators and regulators.
A tension that needs to be addressed if we want to see this technology flourish responsibly. And then you have AI, another massive force shaping the future.
Right, and Garg dives into this too. Doesn't shy away from the concerns people have about AI.
He even brings up artificial general intelligence.
AGI,
Yeah.
that's where AI can do any intellectual task a human can.
Yeah, but Garg's take on the timeline for that.
He thinks true AGI is still pretty far off.
Years away. But AI exceeding humans at specific tasks?
Like in certain areas.
That could be just around the corner, maybe even within the next couple of years. So we need to be ready.
That brings up the whole economic impact. Job displacement, automation.
It's a real concern.
But Garg kind of puts it in historical context, right? Like with the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, those revolutions were disruptive.
But ultimately, they led to progress.
New industries, new opportunities. The challenge is navigating that transition.
So how do we prepare for this AI-powered world?
Education is key. Garg's big on that.
Skills that AI can easily replicate, like rote memorization.
Those are going to be less valuable.
I love the anecdote he shares about his son using voice search.
Instead of learning to type.
It's already happening. AI is changing how we learn and how we access information. And that's just going to accelerate
Critical thinking, creativity, adaptability,
the human skills.
those are going to be even more important. But there's another concern Garg brings up.
The data wall theory.
Right, the idea that AI could hit a wall because it runs out of new data to learn from.
Kind of scary thought.
But Garg is pretty optimistic about it. He points out there's still tons of data AI hasn't processed.
Like medical records, government archives.
Exactly. Plus, there's a potential for AI to learn from itself.
Generate its own data.
It's a possibility. So the data wall might not be the obstacle people think it is. But this raises another big question. Can AI truly innovate?
Like come up with something genuinely new, not just recombining existing ideas.
That's the debate, right? What separates human creativity from what AI might achieve? Garg doesn't have a definitive answer on that one.
Of course, you can't talk about AI without talking about the dystopian fears.
The whole robots taking over scenario.
Garg seems to think those fears are a bit overblown.
He emphasizes that we still control the infrastructure.
We can literally pull the plug.
He connects this fear of AI to a broader trend, though.
The decline of trust.
Exactly. It's not just about rogue AI. It's about anxiety, fear, and distrust in institutions. And this circles back to Garg's point about why decentralized technologies are gaining traction.
Because people are looking for alternatives to those institutions they don't trust anymore.
He cites data showing this huge drop in trust across the board since the 70s. Schools, newspapers, banks, government.
It's a pretty bleak picture.
People are searching for something else, something more transparent, more accountable. And that's where crypto comes in.
It's like technology is reflecting our own societal anxieties. Fascinating, really. But this shift towards decentralization, it raises its own set of questions, right?
Can we actually build a society on trustless systems? What happens to human connection, to social cohesion?
Yeah, Garg acknowledges that. These systems might be efficient, but they could also make us more isolated from each other. It's a fascinating paradox, isn't it? We're creating these incredibly powerful technologies, but at the same time, we seem to be losing faith in our ability to control them.
It's like a double-edged sword. On one hand, you have the potential for amazing advancements, but on the other, you have this underlying anxiety about where it's all leading us.
And Garg brings up this really thought-provoking point about the control of information.
You mean the analogy he makes between AI data and the historical role of the church?
Exactly. It's like, just as the printing press and the internet democratized knowledge, AI has the potential to do the same. But the question is, are we ready for that level of access? And who gets to be the gatekeeper?
It's a big question, and it all comes back to this idea of trust, or the lack thereof.
It's almost like we're trading trust in institutions for trust in algorithms.
Which, let's face it, algorithms are just another human creation. They're not inherently neutral or objective. They reflect the biases and values of the people who create them.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's about the intentions behind it and the values we embed in it.
Precisely. We need to be mindful of that. Technology is a tool, a powerful tool, but it can be used for good or for ill. It all depends on us.
And that's where Garg's insights are so valuable. He's not just talking about the tech. He's talking about the human element, the choices we make, the values we prioritize.
He's urging us to think critically, to question assumptions, to really grapple with the implications of these technologies, not just for our economy, but for our society, for our humanity.
And that's what makes this deep dive so important. It's not just about understanding the latest trends in crypto or AI. It's about understanding ourselves and how we navigate this rapidly changing world.
We need to be having these conversations, not just in tech circles, but in our communities, in our schools, in our homes.
Because the future is not predetermined. It's something we create collectively through the choices we make today.
I think Garg's closing thought really sums it up. What if, instead of fearing these new technologies, we saw them as an opportunity to unlock human potential on a scale we've never seen before?
It's a powerful idea, and it leaves us with a sense of hope and responsibility. We have the power to shape this future. Let's make sure we do it wisely.
Couldn't agree more. Thanks for having me.
And thank you, everyone, for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it as thought-provoking as we did.